an amputee, and I recently found what I've been missing. Not my foot. Believe it or not, it's even more important. One reason why amputation is so devastating has less to do with the foot itself and more to do with feeling cut off from your hopes and your dreams. Let me tell you about mine. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a martial artist. And no, it's not because I'm violent, it's because of how alive it makes me feel. Aside from the camaraderie and the endorphin high from all that exercise, there's something so exhilarating about pushing your mind and your body at the same time. We're talking physical chess, where you're strategizing, trying to set up a series of moves, culminating in a satisfying checkmate. Martial arts got me through some tough times, like when I was worried about my special needs daughter and didn't know her prognosis. Focusing on something else gave me a mental break from my worries, because you simply can't think about other things when somebody's trying to punch your face. No matter how hard things got, I kept moving forward in pursuit of my dream, only to lose it. In 2019, a month after giving birth to my third child, my foot got crippled due to an ill-fated surgery. At first, I didn't realize that my level of pain wasn't normal. On the doctor's orders, I went back to Taekwondo. My bad foot struggled to bear my weight, so I stood on my good foot and kicked with the bad one, not realizing that the bone graft had disintegrated. It hurt a lot, but I kept going, partly because the doctor told me to, but also because despite the pain, I still loved martial arts and I longed to resume my training. 2 years and several surgeries later, all hope of saving my foot had died, but not my dream. During those years of surgery after surgery, I had short periods where I could hobble. I kept trying to get back on the mat, with limited success. When I completely lost the ability to walk, I tried to do Aikido using an office chair. At night, before going to sleep, I would visualize the techniques, so I'd still be able to do them when I got better. Except I never did. When I realized that my foot needed to be amputated, my biggest fear was that I'd never be able to do martial arts again. And my biggest hope was that getting a prosthesis would enable me to go back. I just didn't know which way it would go. Despite everything that had happened, I still longed to resume my training. Being a martial artist wasn't just a hobby, it was part of my identity, part of what made me, me. Without it, I didn't feel complete. It's hard to sum up what happened next. After amputation, when I was learning to walk, a disease got into my remaining foot. I was afraid it would need to be amputated also. Miraculously, my incredible doctor saved my leg. After years of being in a wheelchair, my body had grown weak, but inside my determination was as strong as ever. So I returned to martial arts. Or rather, I tried. I'd been working on strengthening my body and trying to get a more athletic prosthesis. I wasn't quite there, but I was making progress. In the meantime, I signed my son up for classes. When I took him, I entered my old school for the first time in years and told my former instructor how I was getting close to resuming my training. I knew sparring was problematic. Kicking people with a steel ankle is slightly hazardous, like I said, but I figured I could still kick the pad, do weapons, and perform katas and a variety of drills. I was so excited to get started soon. My instructor didn't share my enthusiasm. He suggested that I lay my dream aside and just be content watching my son live the dream. I was crushed. I hadn't fought this hard to live vicariously through my kid. This was my dream, not my son's or anyone else's, and I wanted to live it myself. But if the person who trained me didn't believe in me, how was I going to convince him to even let me on the mat? I felt like I'd fought harder than anyone else in that school just to be there. And after such a prolonged battle and persevering through such intense obstacles, I still hadn't given up. I'd returned, only to be turned away. Weeks later, when speaking with a former instructor from a different art, a similar suggestion was made that perhaps I should pursue wheelchair sports instead. Now, I did like the idea of parafencing, but at the time it wasn't available. But more importantly, I didn't want to lose the arts that I had put so much of my heart and soul into. It took many years of hard work, dedication, and sacrifice to earn my black belt. I didn't want to lose it. Nor did I want to lose the people and the techniques and all of the amazing experiences I used to have. And the fact is, I know my physical capabilities better than anyone else. Given my past training, I also had a sense of what the various arts require. Plus, I'd experimented on my own to test the waters. My focus was on what I could still do, but it felt like everyone around me could only see the things I couldn't do. Deep down, I knew I had the grit and determination to push through, but it's still demoralizing when people give up on you when you haven't given up on yourself. I found myself at a crossroads. Should I keep persisting, or should I let the dream die? Maybe in movies the obvious answer is to keep going, but in real life it's a real turnoff to go somewhere where you don't feel wanted. Would anyone even want to train with me? Or would I just be put in a corner to do my own thing? Would that suck all the joy out of it, defeating the whole purpose of going back? I didn't know what to do, so I tried something new. I had mixed emotions when I started jiu-jitsu. BJJ is an amazing art. It gave me back that feeling of playing chess while pushing my physical and mental limits. Plus, this new instructor didn't treat me any differently because of my leg, but I also felt homesick. I was enjoying what I was doing while simultaneously missing everything I used to do. It felt like a wound that never quite healed. I thought I'd found my new martial arts home, but fate had one more plot twist in store. It can be hard being a woman training in a male-dominated combat sport. I'm really short, not to mention disabled, and I was training in a full contact sport with men much larger and stronger than me. I didn't worry so much about the experienced guys. They had plenty of control and technique, so I didn't think they'd hurt me. The people you really have to watch out for are inexperienced young guys with something to prove. I got one injury, then another, and another. Each time I'd wait for it to heal up, then go back and try to be more careful. I was so desperate to keep doing the one thing that made me feel like my old self. But in the back of my mind, I had an uneasy feeling that I needed to stop before I got a more serious injury. I listened to that feeling. It's impossible to know what would have happened if I'd ignored the feeling, but a few months later when I heard how Footless Joe ended up hospitalized because of a jiu-jitsu injury, it really hit home. Hearing her talk about her grief, knowing that she couldn't return to jiu-jitsu, resonated with me. I felt like I'd finally found a place where I could train and regain some semblance of my former self, only to be forced to admit that I'm too small, too weak, and too broken. Since last autumn, I felt lost. Many other things were coming together in my life, but this one piece was still missing, and maybe it wasn't important to anyone else, but it means a lot to me. I reached a point where I felt like I would never be able to train again. Do you know that feeling when you don't want to get your hopes up because you're terrified they'll just be crushed? That's how I felt when I learned that a fencing school had opened up. People think fencing is all about the arms, but if you watch a professional match, you'll notice that they're lunging and jumping all over the place. I didn't know how much of that I could do. Standing up fencing, I'm kind of a sitting duck. I can still have fun and do many of the drills, but I lack the agility necessary to be a competitive fencer. But this place has a wheelchair rig. I was stunned. What are the odds that this brand new fencing school would have such an expensive and specialized piece of adaptive equipment? But they did. The rest, as they say, is history. My instructor and training partners will never fully appreciate just how much this means to me. They've given back a piece of me that I was afraid had been lost forever. I have something to look forward to that makes me feel excited and that transports me away from my worries for a few precious hours. When I sit in that chair, I can go all out with zero fear of falling or getting injured. Blades move fast, and my mind has to work quicker than ever to keep up with a chess match. And for just a minute, I feel free. After years of feeling trapped, I'm finally free. Sometimes we confuse the form our dream takes with the essence of our dream. At the heart of my dream is the need for the exhilaration that comes when your mind and body unite to push through your limits. Even though I now sit in a wheelchair, I'm still living the same dream I was pursuing before life went wrong. If you're also grieving a lost dream, I challenge you to re-examine what's at the heart of your dream. There are some losses that can never be taken away, but healing can still be found if you ask yourself why what you lost mattered in the first place. Once you've found that seed, you can plant it anew and watch it grow. It might not take away your loss, but it can bring happiness and hope back into your life. And that makes all the difference. I'm Stefanina, and thank you for listening to my story. If you want to hear more of it, here you go. And whatever you're going through, hang in there. I hope you find your dream.